Tonight we talk about a great story of redemption and inspiration. Roll it, Scott. Earlier this week, a group of invested partners here in Baton Rouge and across the state announced a facility that'll be planted in North Baton Rouge. So let's jump right in. Joining me on the set for this week's show, the 95th edition of the Clay Young Show, I might add, is Superintendent of Louisiana State Police, Colonel Lamar Davis, and Angel Nelson, the CEO of Boys and Girls Clubs of Metro Louisiana. My partners in crime, as we said at the press conference in this work. No crime at all here. It's just investment in the community. So let's talk about the Inspiration Center. From the beginning, you and I, Colonel, were standing outside of one of the buildings at Southern on a 118-degree June day talking about what if. That led to us talking with Angel, taking a trip to St. Cloud, Minnesota, then Atlanta, then coming back, and the rest is history, as we announced earlier this week, as you see there on the screen, this facility that'll be planted right in the middle of where the need is the greatest. So your thoughts on that whole process getting to here?
Well, you know, for me, Clay, it's full circle. You know, having lived in that area and having attended Boys and Girls Clubs and having the opportunity to work with Angel and work with you on something that's worthwhile, but also very needed, was very impactful to me. You know, I actually, after the press conference, I went back and I lived about 3 or 4 blocks away from where the Inspiration Center is going to be. And it brought back vivid memories of things that helped me to build character, but also show me support.
Right.
So having that feeling of support and knowing that we're also providing that same level of support to our communities, it's going to be great.
It is. And then Angel, this will be the first standalone building in Boys and Girls Clubs history. You've kind of been a trailblazer in the less than 2 years that you've had the top job, and really kudos to you. A great number of accomplishments already. A little bit of history, first African-American female to be the CEO at Boys and Girls Clubs, and now we're about to do this great building. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's amazing. And look, I'm blessed because I have you two. I mean, honestly, if it were not for you all putting me in front of people, I don't think we'd be here today. So I thank you all for that.
Yeah.
But this is special to me as well because I was that single parent that needed somewhere for my kids to go. And so I could be that productive, caring, responsible citizen for them. But now that I can pay it forward and do that for the kids and changing families and of course communities, this is huge for us. And so I'm really excited to get on the ground running.
So for people who haven't experienced Boys and Girls Clubs, and I think we don't do enough to talk about that, let's talk about the Boys and Girls Clubs experience, because Colonel has referenced it a lot. He referenced it the other day. What do you guys do?
We change lives. We save lives. I mean, we want to make sure that our kids have the tools to graduate from high school on time, but also with a plan for the future. And so whether it be going to further their education, whether it's going to trade school or in the military or just back in the workforce, we want to make sure that they are successful in whatever they dream for, that it's there for them and that we provide those resources for them too.
And one of the things is you are the CEO of the clubs here and in New Orleans. So what are those synergies between the two cities that you hope to create when this building opens up? Yeah,
well, you know, I've learned that there is a lot of, and just to be honest, like the separation between Baton Rouge and New Orleans. And so I'm learning that being new here in Louisiana. But I want it to become one. I mean, these are all of our kids. We're having the same issues across the nation. And so if we can come together, the stronger we'll be to make that change for the kids and again, change the communities.
You know, Colonel, the first time we met with Mark Cooper, Chief of Staff for the Governor, we went in, we met with Mark Cooper, and the force that is known as Dr. Shonda Mitchell to talk about the Inspiration Center concept. We had about a 30, 40-minute meeting with them. We left, and we're standing outside of the Capitol. Colonel gets a phone call, and he kind of looks at me. He's like, yeah, I could be back this afternoon. And, you know, not that much of a surprise. He does run state police, and then he kind of looks at me, and I'm like, and then he mouths to me, and I I said, yeah. So we went back, we met with the governor in his office to talk about this, and from step one, he was on it.
Yeah.
He was on it. Talk about that.
Yeah, you know, Clay, a lot of people underestimate the governor. The governor is intrinsically invested in all of our communities. And one of the challenges and one of the discussions we've had over time and during my tenure was how can we change the narrative? How can we be more invested in our communities? And he challenged me with finding innovative ways to really connect with the community, but also get more of state police back in the community. And that was one of the things that was vital. So having that discussion with you really solidified our pathway to the future and really our success. The governor, you know, has done a phenomenal job with managing the emergencies, but what he has done best is really connecting people.
I want to come back to that point. We're going to talk more about what's inside of the Inspiration Center and our game plan going forward. Colonel Davis and Ms. Nelson will be with us. Y'all come back. Give me 2 minutes. So when we announced this initiative in a meeting with the governor, we told him our intention to plant one of these in Baton Rouge, that being the Inspiration Center. Talked through the concept, and the governor made a commitment to us in that meeting. The governor committed $5 million to this initiative, and he brought in others to ask them to commit. One of the partners, Colonel Angel, that he talked about was Exxon. Exxon has committed to this initiative. AT&T has committed to this initiative. Actually, the first organization to actually cut and send us a check is an organization called DentaQuest that goes into disinvested communities, and they do dental screenings for the people. They're really putting boots on the ground. But let's back up to where we built our book on this thing, how we knew it was going to work. Thanks to Angel, who has some stroke in New Orleans. We flew to St. Cloud, Minnesota on a private jet, and if I had a YouTube channel separate from this, we'd tell that story, but I don't have time here right now. Trust me, nothing illegal happened on the flight. It was just hilarious. And we went to St. Cloud with Chief Blair Anderson. Y'all talk about what we found in St. Cloud.
Yeah, Clay, and you know, St. Cloud was an eye-opening experience because really when you talk about law enforcement and the community working together, that was a vivid example of how it should work. St. Cloud managed to really take a bad situation. They had some protests and some other events that occurred during the George Floyd time. And as a result of that, they birthed the Cop House, the Community Outpost. They went to Racine, Wisconsin and conducted some research and brought back the idea of the Community Outpost and really moved forward with connecting, again, law enforcement in the community. And that particular outpost houses, as you mentioned, dental services, law enforcement, and other critical services to the community. And that's really helped to not only stabilize their community, but bring them closer together.
That's right, that's right. And there's a Boys and Girls Clubs across the street from the Cop House.
And it's huge. Actually, it's a Boys and Girls Clubs that actually worked out of a school and took over that school, so that was great too. But like Colonel said, just bridging the gap between law enforcement and the community and the youth as well.
Right.
That was awesome to see. And then again, just to get that extra homework time for the kids and to know that families can, if they need anything, they can go there to get some type of vision. Remember, there was vision services there as well.
Right.
So snacks and meals for them too, so for the kids and the families. So again, it really was the community coming together in helping their community, their own community, and feeling that sense of belonging,
right.
You know what I mean, and usefulness and influence and having a voice, and then being able to take action behind that voice. I think that was important too.
We went to Atlanta right after St. Cloud, Minnesota, to the At Promise Centers. My favorite part about talking about the At Promise Centers is probably the name, because they're facilities that are created by the Atlanta Police Foundation, and they call it At Promise Centers because they take young people from at risk to at promise. That's hot. I love that. And so we got a chance to see some of the amenities in the building, and there was one feature, one thing on the inside that we take for granted. They had washers and dryers in there because of the number of kids who have no place to wash their clothes or showers to take a shower.
Yeah.
It was just amazing to see the At Promise Centers. Talk about them.
Yeah, Clay, and you know, we think about that being in Atlanta, but I remember going to a school in North Louisiana, and there a school that was ravaged with fights and conflict. And quite frankly, when I spoke to the parents and I spoke to the teachers there, they said a lot of the fights and a lot of the conflict started as a result of kids who did not have clothes to wash. They, in turn, put washers and dryers in the school. So simple things to some people are critical to others. And I think that's what the At Promise Center was able to do, was take those needs and provide and use their resources to serve as a force multiplier for our kids and help our kids expand, grow, and really mitigate and get through some of those challenges that they're faced with every day.
And we're going to have, the intention is for us to have wraparound services available inside of the building, education services, mentorship, mental health, even in some cases of some young people, addiction support. I mean, we're going to have services in the building. And make no mistake about it, the concept is you put things inside of the building that young people want, that they would come there for anyway. And while they are there, you impact them in giving them services that'll help them be productive citizens. Having Boys and Girls Clubs on the inside, you've got the reputation, the experience, the know-how, and the character to make this happen. It's a win-win. But I do want to be candid with the audience. This has been an uphill battle for us since the beginning. Our governor has been nothing but committed to this, but you're talking about a $13 million investment when this is all built out. That includes smaller versions of this around the city. So we broke ground to announce the initiative. We are in no way at the finish line. Right? I got about 30 seconds before we break and come back. Why don't you talk about that a little bit, the fact that the work is just beginning.
Absolutely. I mean, just when you say beginning, I mean, we did break ground, but now we got to build the building.
Yeah.
Now we have to also now put a planning and program committee together so that we can meet the needs of the community and include the community, because again, we can't put those services together without the community there. And so now you have to think about that, but then you have to also have the partners as well. And I know I can go on.
I know, we got 10 seconds. We'll come back. We'll talk about the press conference that happened earlier this week. It was hot as fish grease out there. Back to tell you that in just a moment. All right, I got 4.5 minutes in this next segment, and thank goodness Chief Paul is not here, because I'd never be able to get everything in if he was here. Let's talk about the results we found in Atlanta and St. Cloud. Reduced recidivism rate.
Yes.
The recidivism rate in St. Cloud dropped to 5%. Reduced calls for service. Lower truancy rates. Higher percentages of families and youth impacted and served by all of these service providers in both Atlanta and in St. Cloud, serving literally thousands of kids a year. Let's talk about the Inspiration Center in Baton Rouge, and this was probably the best part of the whole press conference. On the inside of our building, we have 3 rooms that'll be named for 3 people that we never want to forget. 2 of them are on my set for every show. For Boys and Girls Clubs, they have 2 computer labs, one on the teen side, one on the preteen side. The teen side will be forever named the Allie Rice Learning Center, named after Allison Rice, who was killed fall of last year. And on the preteen side is the Devin Page Computer Lab, named after Devin, who we lost just over a year ago. And the law enforcement room, the Leo room on the inside of it, where Colonel Davis, Chief Paul, Constable Williams, and Sheriff Gautreaux will have officers, will be named after Lieutenant Glendale Hutto, who was murdered nearly 3 years to the day of the announcement of the censors. Now, other amenities outside of the computer labs. There'll be a football field on the outside of the facility, an indoor basketball gym, a recording studio, so Angel can finally live out her dream to be a country music star. And then there will be that's a horrifying thought. And then there will be a video game arena on the inside as well. So St. Cloud, they're all saying, man, we got to come back and see this thing. How about that, right?
Yeah, and when you talk about dangling that carrot over the kids' heads, I mean, and bringing them in, we're going to get kids from all ages, from all walks, from all backgrounds. And so then when they get in, it's building that trust and then being able to offer these programs and services for the kids.
You going to dust off your basketball sneakers when the gym opens?
Yeah, I think I still have them, in fact. It's been about 20 years, but I still have them. But no, and I think that's going to be vital. And again, a lot of the skills that I use even today, I learned through the Boys and Girls Club, coaching, leadership, conflict resolution. Being able to put the kids in that environment, in a safe environment by which they can then learn, grow, and mature is going to be vital to their success in their future.
Absolutely.
And then, you know, we're going to put together, we talked about this in one of our calls, a youth advisory committee with some young people. We held one of our foundation board meetings at Glen Oaks, and there was a young lady there who stole the show. She was asking all these pointed questions.
Yes.
I said, we have to put her on the council. So young people are going to be involved. I will tell y'all, this has been one of the most gratifying things I have ever been a part of. Working with y'all on this, this has been 100% about the community. And no matter what criticism or pushback is out there, we've always, as Coach Prime says, kept the main thing the main thing. And that is getting this building planted. So I got about a minute or so here. What would you like to tell the public about this initiative that they need to know, starting with Colonel?
Well, for me, it as Angel says, it changes lives. I stand as an example of that. My life was changed as a result of people that invested in me. And I always talk about investing in one another. When we invest in people on the front end, then we no longer have to chase, arrest, or apprehend them on the back end. So it's about investing in people.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'll just steal what you said a while ago, and I don't know if you remember, because I know you have problems with remembering things. But anyways.
These are phone calls all the time. Go ahead, I got 30 seconds here, comedian.
It's generational change.
Yes.
And being able to show kids that we're here to help them, and then they pay it forward and come back to their community.
Well, I appreciate you both. We're going to be giving you an update in a few weeks on where we are with this process, and I can't wait to get this in Baton Rouge. And speaking of inspiration, what an amazing story we have in our final segment, and you will hear that next. Thanks to Angel, thanks to Colonel Davis. Now y'all can leave. Back in just a moment. So we talk about inspiration on this show for the last few minutes, and this story is really an inspiring one. Ben Peabody has taken tough times in his life and has turned it into an opportunity to help others who may be going through it or who are about to go through it. Dr. Brian Benson is here with us as well. Ben is now an artist and an author. So tell me your story. Give me your elevator pitch on your story.
Well, we started this series of work in 1999. I helped start Baton Rouge Community College, and we were short an art teacher there that first semester, so I had to fill in. I was the foundation director, and I taught a class, and at the end of it we wanted to do something for the wellness fair at the library. And besides being there, the art teacher, the foundation director, I was also the free school counselor.
Oh,
so
man.
I worked with a lot of these kids with the problems they were having. And so at the semester I said, we need to do something, you're all artists, we need to do something for the wellness fair for the library. And they said, well, what are you going to do, Mr. Peabody? And I said, nothing, I'm the teacher. And they said, no, you got to do something. We know you do cool stuff and we like what you do. So I said, okay, I'll do something about y'all. So I did a piece of artwork that reflected what they would come and tell me, their stories, their problems with addiction, their problems for not being able to come to school, their problems with hangovers, just whatever. So I kind of related that in a piece of artwork about them, and then the hope and the success and the happiness they got if they got in recovery. And so I did that first piece in 1999.
Yeah.
And 24 years later, I have 41 pieces, all on addiction that I've done. And one of the only artists,
some of them scrolling on the
one
screen
of the only artists who ever has anything like that. So it's a very unique show at the West Baton Rouge Museum, and I want to give all the shout out West Baton Rouge Museum for doing this, because it's really, they stuck their neck out to do something on addiction. It's been well received, and it's something people need to see, because we're trying to save a life and educate young people before it happens.
Yeah, you know, life comes at freshmen really fast. You know, so often when they're teens, they just can't wait to be an adult. And then when that door opens, it's like, uh-oh, what do I do now? So you're drinking from a fire hose. Ben, what are your thoughts on this work? And it's got to be cathartic for you as well to do it, but what do you think about the impact that this work is having on these young people?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Mr. Young and Mr. Peabody. Thanks for inviting me and all you've done. So I think it's great to be able to have something to take the focus off, remove the stigma, you know, address any concerns that the patient, the young person, the adolescent may have, and just be able to discuss things, not feel like they're going to get in trouble talking about something. I mean, I've heard stories that you said that a young lady and her mom came to talk about one of your pieces, and next thing you know, the daughter was quite well informed on the subject, and mom maybe didn't know that she was, and basically there was a problem there that wasn't even discussed, and then there was a talk on the way home, a really important talk. So it opened up the conversation. You know, I'm a family practice doc. I am about 3 years after my residency training, I was asked to get in to consider the specialty of addiction, and I never knew how rewarding it would be. You know, never knew.
Why so?
Well, most of the times as a primary care doctor, we're trying to convince people to live healthy, to lose some weight, so you don't have to be on the blood pressure medicine. Watch what you eat, so you don't have to, so you don't get diagnosed with diabetes. Oftentimes, we just see the process worsen. You know, it's hard to get out there and exercise to back off your eating. If you're like me, that's where you go to. It's like when you're stressed out, where's the chocolate? You know what I mean? And this is Southern Louisiana, where the food's so good and it's too hot to get out there and exercise.
We fry butter.
Yeah, there you go, exactly.
Yeah.
So then the problem becomes that that folks look for other things for satisfaction, and they can use poor coping skills will lead to substance use. You know, people use substances because they either don't want to face a problem, anxiety, depression, maybe trauma or something like that, or they use it for performance enhancing. You know, like a substance like a stimulant, Adderall, that sort of thing. So they can do the all-nighters. And so these are reasons why some people just like the feeling of getting high. So I think what he does, opening up the door for conversation, because we know at 13 years old, about half the kids are starting to experiment with things. Others kick the can down the road and they wait till they're about 20 and then they start experiencing. But if you can let them get through those formative years where the brain is really forming and they're testing out being an adult, if you can let them get through those years without a substance involved, their chances of having a long-lasting sober life, a satisfying sober life are very high, much higher.
I love that. You know, Ben, for parents who have been surprised, as Doc referenced a second ago, by learning things that their kids may be into that they haven't even seen, what advice would you give? Because there's new college freshmen every year.
What we're trying to warn right now is the danger of fentanyl. Fentanyl is out there, and it's in everything from Adderall to Xanax, even into marijuana now. And that's what's so scary. We're having people, you know, innocently taking, well, I'm out of Adderall and my buddy's got some, so I'll just take his instead of the ones that are prescribed by the physician. And next thing you know, they've had fentanyl in them and they could die right then. It's also very, very addictive. Just after a couple times of using it, you want more of that because it's so powerful and so strong. So if I can get any message out, I'm trying to tell parents to tell their children, talk to them about it, warn them that right now it's dangerous. It's not like the older days where you could do something and get away with it.
Right.
Now it's life or death, and we're trying to save a life and start a dialogue where they feel comfortable. Come talk to your parents, talk to your friends. Just be warned about it.
I need y'all to get to the west side of the river to go to the West Baton Rouge Museum. While you're over there, stop at Bajaral's. The crackling will change your life.
Yep.
So thank y'all so much for what you do.
Thank
Mayor
you.
Pro Tem Lamont Cole will be here next week. You guys have a great and safe weekend. Catch you for episode number 96.